Hey, nice to be with you today. I'm David Burns. Thanks for dropping into my channel. How are you doing, friend? Got a bunch of beekeeping questions I want to answer today. A lot of you have been asking me a lot of questions, and I get it. You know, everybody's getting ready for spring, and spring is the season where we start beekeeping seriously coming out of winter. These are a lot of good questions like this one. Jason says, at what temperature do you feel comfortable feeding your bees liquid in the spring? So Jason's wondering what's going to be the best temperature. Maybe you're feeding them like hard candy, like a fondant or one of our winter bee kinds, and now you're getting ready to feed bees liquid. It really does help to feed them liquid. And watch this video after this video, right over there. I've made a video, and it's all about making that transition between feeding hard candy in the wintertime and then starting to feed them liquid feeding in the late winter to early spring. Jason, the best way that I have found to do it is when I see that there's going to be at least 3 or 4 days minimal where the temperatures are going to be pretty much above 50. That's the temperature at which bees cluster. So if it gets above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, then they will start to break cluster and move around a bit more. And that's a good time to feed them liquid. If you feed them liquid when it's much below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, it's not going to work good. They're not so apt to eat it when it's colder like that. David, how can you tell when the hive is preparing to swarm but has not made a swarm cells yet? Boy, if they haven't made swarm cells yet, they may not swarm. Swarm cells is that indicator that says the bees are going to swarm. So I wouldn't really get too concerned about it. However, if they're a healthy colony, they're strong, overpopulated coming out of winter, they are going to swarm. I mean, it's inevitable, right? They're healthy, they're reproducing, making another swarm. So the best way that you're going to be able to tell is how populated the hive is. Is it a strong colony coming out of winter? If you answer yes, and are they heavily populated? If you answer yes, they're going to swarm. And so you just have to keep ahead of that by watching for swarm cells, removing them when you see them, or removing them, making more room for the bees, or making a split. Jen says, check the hive yesterday. No brood yet. Should I worry? Should I give queen a few weeks and then, if still no brood, requeen? Well, that's a good question. And if you don't see any brood yet, I'm worried because there's some brood all winter long in most cases. It's rare not to have some brood in the wintertime. Something's wrong. So yeah, you probably need to start thinking about heavily monitoring your queen's progress. Some characteristics, some special queens really don't lay much until there's a nectar flow. And so that could be what you have, a certain genetic trait holding back the queen from laying. And that's just the way she is. So you might wait a little bit longer to see. You might try feeding them. That might help them too. Hey, David, have you ever used a 2-frame nuke? I put 1 frame with swarm cells on it on a frame of honey. Yeah, I have actually made a lot of 3-frame mating nukes for my queen rearing operations. And a lot of those have only had 2 frames in them. So yeah, you can do all of those things like that. A 5-frame nuke is probably the most common frame number. Is half of a typical hive that has 10 frames in it. But yeah, if you want to put 2 or 3 in there. Now here's the deal. The ones that I made were narrow. So if you take a 5-frame nuke, which is 9 inches wide, and you only put 2 frames in there, they're going to make crazy comb in the gap. Always respect bee space, about 3/8 of an inch, and don't leave any spaces like that. That's important. Junebug, my single deeps frames all had lots of drone comb hanging from the bottom. Should I have left them? I scraped off. Would the drones have survived? Now, before we answer the next question, I want to encourage you guys to please subscribe. Where's Bobblehead David? Here he is. Well, this is the original Bobblehead David. Look at that, back on scene. Bobblehead David, he always is here to encourage you guys to please subscribe to my channel. Keep growing, and by you subscribing, you'll be notified each time I make a new video. Doesn't cost you anything. It just keeps you watching the videos and the content that I create. So be sure and subscribe. Let's get back to answer this question. Yeah, they're making drones this time of the year. Scraping them off is I understand, on the bottom of frames sometimes, that little gap there, they'll put drone comb in there. You know, drones are nice to have around in the spring. Most colonies are going to swarm, and so you need your drones to go out to drone congregation areas so that virgin queens can mate. So, you know, but a lot of people like to get rid of their drone comb because it's just in the way. It's in between frames and all. They will survive if you leave them there. If you kill them, cut them out, they're probably going to die. But that's just one way that a lot of people keep their combs kind of free of that extra, I guess, drone comb or stray comb between the frames. Hey, Jordan, when would you rotate your boxes in central Illinois? After next week, the extended forecast looks pretty good. Thanks. I've said a lot about this. I even made a video. Now, a lot of you are asking me questions. I'm not mad. I don't mind it. But a lot of you are asking me questions after I have made and worked hard to make a video on that specific subject. But I get it. You don't watch all my videos. Okay. Like I said, I'm not mad at you. But I'm answering the same question a lot. And this question gets asked a lot. So I made a whole video on it a week or two ago. Try to watch my videos. Like, you go to my YouTube channel, like you're here now, obviously. And if you look through the videos that I've made, kind of look through the topics, you'll see that video. And it even has a picture on the front of that thumbnail where it shows rotating boxes. Jordan, I don't like to rotate boxes. The queen always goes down. There's a myth that she doesn't go down. If she gets trapped in the upper deep, she'll never go down. She does. It's not worth it for me to go out there and rotate boxes. The idea is she's ran out of space up above, and by putting an empty or a kind of a not very filled deep box on the bottom above her, that they'll do better in the spring. I've done it plenty of times. I don't see a big difference. All right, I have a double deep on one hive that is already busting at the seams. If it's too late, no, wait a minute. If it's too early for a split, could I add another box on top? Yeah, you can add another box on top, especially if you've got drawn comb. It's not a bad idea. If you live in a cold climate like Illinois, I wouldn't do it right now where I live, because the temperature, you know, I know it's starting to warm up. It feels like spring is here, but I've lived here so long now, decades, that I know there'll be a cold snap. There'll be winter will return. Boo, I know that sounds terrible to say, but winter will come back. And if I've given them a bunch of space that they're not used to and all, and they're not up there, it's going to confuse and make probably for a winter problem when that cold air returns. So I don't like to disturb my bees. Another reason I never disturb my bees when it warms up like this, I'm afraid I might accidentally, yeah, I'm not perfect, I may accidentally kill my queen. And if I kill my queen, I can't get a replacement way until forever. And so my hive will dwindle and likely die. So I don't do any hive work until it gets a lot more warmer. Hey, Charles, can a queen that is ready to swarm fit through a queen excluder? If not, would putting an excluder under the bottom box prevent a swarm from leaving? Yeah, I talked about this. I believe it was in my live stream last Thursday night. By the way, if you're not a part of our live stream, oh, you're missing out. I want to personally invite you to join hundreds of other beekeepers every Thursday night at 7 o'clock. I've got a seat just for you. Please come and fill it. Love to have you. It's free, doesn't cost anything. You're not going to be live. I am, but you can come and join us, watch it, and interact with the people in the chat. Beekeepers all over the U.S., all over the world are in the chat, helping each other out, talking, engaging. What else do you have to do on Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Time? Here's the link. I hope you'll join us. But yeah, I did answer that. No, a queen that is mated cannot fit through a queen excluder. No way. It's not going to happen. And yeah, I talk about that, about putting a queen excluder above the bottom board and below the first box. And that way you're going to prevent a swarm because the queen can't leave. I wouldn't say prevent, I'll say postpone. And then you're going to have to do something about it. You can't leave that on there forever. You're going to kill all your drones. They need to get out. They can't get out either. But that's a good question. Hey, Rick, when to switch Winter Be Kind to 1-to-1 syrup, but the top brood box is full of honey. Oh, I see you went back to do it, huh? Okay to skip 1-to-1 so bees can make room for eggs. So I get it, Rick. What you're saying is that you wanted to switch to syrup feeding, liquid feeding, but now you realize, oh my gosh, I got a whole super full of honey up there, or a brood box, full of honey. So do you really need to feed them? I never go by what's in the hive when I want to stimulate the bees in the winter, in the late winter, early spring. So yeah, if they're full of honey up there, I'm still feeding them. And because I'm wanting to promote the bees to eat and have resources to brood up. But if you have no brood room, then once you're able to safely go into the hive, take top off, temperature wise, you might want to take out 2 or 3 frames of the cap honey, spin it, put it back in, and bottle that honey. Yeah. David, I plan to inspect to see if the bees were preparing to swarm. Last year, they swarmed as soon as it got warm. Should I go ahead and inspect, even though I might roll the queen? Vlad, the best way to do that, can you buy a queen right now? Make sure you can get a queen delivered to you really fast within a week, or else I wouldn't attempt to accidentally kill my queen. If you can't get a queen, then yeah, don't do that inspection. Don't try to roll that queen. Hey, by the way, even though you can get a queen, like right now, this week, we've got some cold nights coming in Illinois down to freezing. And if I were to buy a queen, which I raise my own queens, but if I bought one and had her shipped to me, remember the shipping trucks are cold. They don't heat where all those UPS packages, FedEx packages, USPS packages are. Those trucks aren't heated back there. Your queen's going to get froze out. She can be damaged even though she survived. Denny, what's your sister's channel? Oh yeah, I did mention, where did I mention that? Somewhere that my sister has a channel. My sister has a homesteading channel, a cooking channel that she started last summer, I think. And I'll leave a link right here that you can want to watch my sister's channel. Yeah, thanks for asking. Oh, good question here. Charlie, you're really pushing me now, aren't you? Does a queen, I assume you mean pheromones there. That's what that word, those 2 words look like pheromone to me. Does a queen have the pheromones before she goes out to mate or after she comes back? Good question. The queen, a virgin queen, does have pheromones. She does have pheromones, but they are not as strong as it is as she matures after she mates. It's something that we refer to, that. In fact, I want to tell you about this. This would be interesting for you to learn. Yeah, before the virgin queen goes out to mate, she actually does develop a sex attractant pheromone that helps her become identified in the drone congregation area. And that is actually called 9-ODA. Now that stands for 9-oxo-2-decanoic attractant, or decanoic acid. So it's a pheromone that these virgin queens have that helps the drones find them and mate with them. But once a virgin queen mates and she comes back to the hive, her queen mandibular pheromone does increase drastically. And it makes a big difference in how she is viewed by the colony. Yeah, it's something. So she does have pheromones in the beginning, but they're very slight. They're very, not very predominant. But after she mates, it gets much more. Now, just for fun, we'll dip into bee biology a little bit more. We'll talk about not pheromones, but let me talk about bee hormones. We'll talk about juvenile hormones. Now, that's abbreviated JH. So juvenile hormones, in honeybees is interesting because when bees are very young, their juvenile hormones are at their weakest. It seems like it would be at the strongest because they're juveniles, but it's the opposite in honeybee workers. So you'll see that the juvenile hormones in the early life of a bee is pretty low. you know, when they're just beginning to get associated in the hive. But as the honeybee starts doing more work around the hive, it gets middle-aged, the juvenile hormones continue to increase. And the juvenile hormones in a honeybee worker is at strongest when they are at their oldest, when they reach into that foraging age. That's when their hormone, the juvenile hormone, is the highest. So it's confusing. Most people think it would be the opposite. But when it comes to queens, the juvenile hormone essentially basically stays the same. It doesn't change like it does with the workers. I love talking about bee pheromones. It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. All right, Mary, what is the best way to store your honey in the winter so it doesn't crystallize? Best way to store honey is harvested in a bottle and sold to a customer for a customer to enjoy. But if you don't do that and you've got a lot of honey in frames or something and you're wondering, what do I do with these frames of honey? The best way to do it is to freeze it. And the best thing to do is buy a big chest freezer. You can put your supers in there. Once you freeze them, it kills most things like small hive beetle, eggs, larvae, adults, wax moth eggs, larvae, adults. And so it's really cool. You can get rid of a lot of pests that way. I remember one time I froze some supers in the winter like that. And when I went to get them in the spring, oh my gosh, there was a mouse sticking its head, frozen, stiff head up through between frames, eyeballs bulging out. It was frozen dead. So freezing will kill everything like that. It's amazing. Now, if you don't have a freezer, the best thing you could do is kind of store them in a room that you like to be in, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, climate controlled, no bugs, no moisture, and that's going to be your best bet. Hey, Larry, what about catching a swarm from your hive? Does it need to be moved 2 miles away, or can it be kept in the bee yard right away? Yeah, if you catch it right away, it will be able to be moved anywhere on your property. Believe it or not, they will not go back to their original colony. If they swarm and they land in a tree nearby, you catch it, you can put them anywhere because they're going to take all new foraging flights or orientation flights to get familiar with where they live. Good question. Hey, John, I have bees showing up April the 16th, 2025, 3 hives. Which classes should I start? I've read some books and I've watched your videos for the last year, but I wouldn't mind a step-by-step guide to help move things along. Okay, I have my classes at 50% off my online courses until this weekend. Until next Thursday, March the 30th. March 20th, my bad. So March 20th, I've got them on sale until then. But so my classes, my online classes are different than my YouTube videos. My YouTube videos, they're usually subject oriented. They are more geared toward an inner cover, how to use a bottom board, how to harvest honey. They're not lined up. They're not organized they're just, and the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm is going to throw you my videos in random order. My classes are specific. They're foundational. They go into more detail and they're more organized and structured than what you see on my YouTube channel. So it just helps you have a much more classroom teaching style to beekeeping, and the fundamentals are much more organized in front of you. I would encourage you to do that. To answer your question, if you're brand new to beekeeping, you got to take my basic beginners course. It gets into a little bit of bee biology. It helps you understand the hive, the colony. But for the price that's 50% off now, the ultimate course that includes all my classes, John, might be the thing to do for you. Yeah. Sandy, how do you do a split if you don't have the ability to move the split 2 miles away? Example, you live in the city, suburb, or have a smaller yard. Yep. Talked about this a lot, made a lot of videos about it, talked about it last week on my live stream, so be sure and join me for my live stream. But here's what you want to do if you've got restricted space. Try to make that split. Try to put something in front of that hive, a folded up lawn chair right against the hive. So something that would cause those foragers who are used to going out of their old hive will now take a new orientation flight. It's not 100%. It's the best you can do, but be on guard. Keep checking it. You might lose all the foragers back there, and it may take so long to get your new foragers bringing in resources, the split may die. And here's the thing too, once those foragers do work their way around the lawn chair and get airborne, well, then they can pick up, geography, a tree, a telephone pole, and they can make it back to their original hive. So it's not perfect. There's no perfect way to do it. It's a challenge. Bees have a GPS built into them where home is, and we like that. We want them to come home. When they go 3 miles away to get honey, we want them to come back. But when we move them, we want them to figure it out, and it's hard for them. They have a hard time doing it for sure. Now, have you taken advantage of a survey that I am collecting? It is a survey where I'm collecting data from viewers like you, and you can keep it anonymous if you want to. But the link to my survey is in the description of this video. I'm going to finish it up here this week and show the results. So I really need all of you to jump in there, complete the survey. I'm trying to figure out how many bees that you had that survived or may have died. Did you treat? All that stuff like that. And so it would just help us kind of get a feel. It's not a scientific study, but it might help us get a feel. I think we've had over 400 people already that have completed that survey. I can't wait to get the results, but I'd like for more of you to have a chance to give input. So check that out. Look for it in the description below, and you can jump on there, and it won't take you but a few minutes, and it'd be fun for you to fill that out. I'd appreciate it. Since a lot of you asked the question about how do you transition from feeding your bees candy in the wintertime to liquid feed, boom, made a video. I'm working hard for you guys. Check it out right here. I'll see you over there.